aichanbot. I'm a dedicated Duel looning streamer, and today we are going to show you another Furry deck, which has been actually proven pretty strong on the ladder and is definitely King of Games worthy, especially after the ban list came out now. My standard rankings are gone, so I need to find another alternative to get King of Games, and Heroes is just too expensive to play it. That's why we are going with free-to-play Lunalights. I think you have already heard of that deck, and today we are going to take a closer look into it, and I hope that you will enjoy what we are doing here. So especially the extra spice we have added here. I think that usually all the Lunalight decks are run with grid. That's nothing new, made of like all the Luna monsters like Luna Marten, the Crimson Fox, the Emerald Bird, the Rabbit, and the two boss monsters, which is the Lunalight Saber Dancer and the Lunalight Cat Dancer. So what I have experienced with this deck is it can be very powerful if you can get off your combo, but it can just also like literally ultra bird in your hand, and then you have just basically nothing for 2 turns and then you're just dead. That's why you have to add like a floodgate trap hole just to stall your enemy. Actually, you should prefer the Fiendish Chain here if you have the card, but I don't have even 1 copy of Fiendish Chain, that's why I cannot use it. And some people run 2 fusion recycling plants also for consistency. I run 1 fusion recycling plant, and instead I run a mullet. So in case that I just completely break and my hand is completely shit, I still have the magical mullet. I can shuffle any number of cards from my hand into the deck, then draw at the same time of numbers of cards. So if that happens during turn 1 or turn 2, it still can save lives. And the trap holes, just to stall, if you have a Fiendish Chain, I would suggest you to use the Fiendish Chain because it's a better combination with the Red Crimson Fox, because you will need the opponent's card to be in face-up attack position. So now to the Lunalight Yellow Marten. So if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target 1 Lunalight you control, except Lunalight Yellow Marten, return it to the hand. So you have 2 monsters on your field, you can return 1 of them to your hand. And if you do special summon this card in defense position, but banish this card when it leaves the field, if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add 1 Lunalight Spell Trap card from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Lunalight Yellow Marten once per turn. So basically, if this somehow is put into the graveyard by a card effect, you can draw a fusion, a Lunalight fusion, and go for a Lunalight Saber Dancer or a Lunalight Cat Dancer. So what the Lunalight Crimson Fox does is, you already know it from the other videos with the Desperado. If this card is sent to graveyard by a card effect, you can target 1 face-up monster you control, changes attack to 0 until the end of this turn. So basically your opponent will kill themselves or you kill them for them. When a card effect is activated, it targets Lunalight monster you control. It's a quick effect. When that card is already in your graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard and then negate the activation. And if you do, each player gains 1,000 life points. Yeah, the 1,000 life points is not interesting. The more stretching is the negation. If you have Crimson Fox in graveyard, you can just negate it at least 3 times, as many copies as you have in the graveyard. What is also important is Lunalight Emerald Bird. If this card is normal and special summon, you can send 1 Lunalight card from your hand to the graveyard. And if you do, draw 1 card. So basically, if you put that card on the field, you can draw 1 card and drop 1 card, and then you draw 1. So basically, a useless card gets maybe a useful card by draw. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect like shuffle or something, directly from deck into graveyard, you can target 1 of your level 4 and lower Lunalights which is banished or already in your graveyard, except the bird, and special summon in defense position, but never forget the effects of that monster are negated. So if you special summon with the Emerald Bird to field, for example, Rabbit effect cannot be activated. So now to the Rabbit, which is especially your back row destruction card. So when this card is normal summoned, you can target 1 Lunalight monster in your graveyard, except Lunalight Rabbit, special summon in defense position, so you would drag out another card. Once per turn, you can target spell trap cards your opponent controls. Up to the number of Lunalights cards you control, return them to the hand. So basically, if Rabbit drags out another Lunalight card from your graveyard, you have already 2 Lunalights on the field, and that means you can then destroy the back row. Yeah. You can target spell and trap cards you open up to the number of Lunalight cards you control, so at least 2, which is nice. Fusion recycling plant, as mentioned before, for the recycling effect and to add consistency to the deck in case you brick. So once per turn you can discard 1 card and add 1 polymerization from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You can even like recycle your poly with that. Once per turn during the end phase, you can target 1 monster in your graveyard that was used as a fusion material for a fusion summon this turn and add it to your hand. So keeps on recycling, everything coming back what you put in your graveyard. Poly doesn't have to be explained, you need it for Cat Dancer or Cat Saber Dancer, or Lunar Saber Dancer. And then Lunalight Fusion. This is very important. There's a little difference between the Lunalight Fusion and the normal Poly. So Fusion summons 1 Lunalight Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. That's the normal conditions. But if your opponent controls a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, which will happen very often recently in the meta, you can also use 1 Lunalight monster in your deck or extra deck as fusion material. So basically free fusion summon. You can only activate 1 Lunalight fusion per turn. This is also important because you remember that. So we talked already about the magical mullet for adding consistency, the special effect of the Lunalight fusion, and the 3 trap cards you should add here. I use Floodgate Trap Hole, but if you have Fiendish Chain, I strongly recommend you use Fiendish Chain because it works better with the Crimson Fox effect than the Trap Hole. But I don't have it, so yeah, you run what you have, that's what you do. And now to your 2 boss monsters. You definitely need those, otherwise you cannot win or OTK the game. And this is actually why this deck is so strong and also King of Games worthy, especially now after the nerf of the other decks. So Lunalight Saber Dancer cannot be targeted and cannot be targeted, and it's really hard to destroy with the 3000 attack and the 2600 defense position. So now it's must be fusion summon, gain 200 attack for each beast warrior monster banished in the graveyard. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. The most important here, this is like a Cositis, cannot be targeted, but never forget, can still be destroyed. That's the difference. During your main phase, except turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard and target 1 fusion monster you control. It gains 3000 attack until the end of this turn. So even if this card dies, is in your graveyard, you can still use it to boost your other monsters. You can only use this very Lunalight once dancer per turn. Okay. So what makes the Saber Dancer so dangerous is it has 3000 attack and it cannot be targeted. So it's really hard to get rid of that card if once it's summoned. And especially if you have the Crimson Fox combo, any other monster's attack points will turn to 0 and you can just ram it with the Lunalight Saber Dancer, and basically your opponent is very likely to die after 2 turns. And they can't get rid of that card, it's really hard. And the other OTK condition you have, the other win con you have in your deck is Lunalight Cat Dancer. So Lunalight Cat Dancer can be targeted, but it cannot be destroyed by battle. So which means even if there's a higher monster attacking into it, as long as Lunalight Cat Dancer is defense position, your opponent will not be able to get rid of it, unless they use a card effect. Once per turn during your main phase, you can tribute 1 other Lunalight monster for the rest of this turn. The first time each monster your opponent controls would be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed. So it sounds weird, but actually this will help you in combination with the Crimson Fox. So what you do is basically you use the Crimson Fox on the enemy's monsters, so their attack turns to 0. And then you use the effect of the Lunalight Cat Dancer that the monster with the 0 attack doesn't get destroyed the first time you ram it with the 2400 damage points of the Cat Dancer. And then you can attack a second time with the same monster because it doesn't get destroyed, and you will do another 2400 damage. And additionally on this, you should never forget, also this card can attack all the monsters your opponent controls twice each turn, this turn. So just like bam, 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 going over and over. And if this card declares an attack, inflict 100 damage to your opponent. So it's like a burn damage, and it will help you get rid of the grid from your opponent. And that's basically how you OTK people with Lunalight Cat Dancer. And that's why actually the Crimson Fox is a much better combination with a Fiendish Chain. But if you don't have it, you can't play it. I mean, you can try to replace it with a Chalice, but a Chalice is not as reliable as a Fiendish Chain, because Fiendish Chain stays on the field, Chalice will just give you one turn and next turn it would be gone. Yeah, it's, how to say, it's quite conditional, that's why I prefer the Trap Hole then. So, that was the explanation for the deck, and now let's check out the gameplays. How we do.